Welcome to galacticconnection.com, one of the most popular blogs on the World Wide Web today for alternative news. Stay tuned for the latest information on our world shift from enslavement to galactic involvement, as well as current intel on any blockages impeding us from our sovereign birthright. Knowledge and self-mastery are key at this time. Our commitment is to present you with the latest breaking conspiratorial articles, off-world messages, exopolitics, cutting-edge technologies and sciences, and also an ever-significant intertwining of spiritual support and metaphysical scope that one needs to dive down the rabbit hole in search for truth with balance. We are truly on the horizon of a new golden age filled with the promise for more love, worldwide peace, and accelerated intuitive skills, where every living being can exist in cohesion and abundance. It is whatever we envision and dream this new world to be. I say to you now, let's redefine the new world to the beginnings of our own precious heaven on earth. Galactic Connection is here to provide the pulse of Mother Earth through an eclectic range of interviews each Tuesday afternoon from 3 to 4:55 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, Station 2 on BVS Radio, expanding your perspectives on how we can once and for all take back our freedoms, our joy, and our connection with our mighty I Am presence. Our intention remains true to connect hearts and minds everywhere in order to obtain global unity and galactic and universal acceptance. Our discussions will continue to cover anything to do with galactic society and our involvement with our galactic brothers and sisters. Our guests are experts in their fields, and our radio shows have been coined as some of the most thought-provoking out there. In addition to our daily blog, which runs 365 days a year, we also offer a realm of healing services such as our world-renowned implant removal processes, our spiritual past life clearings, our galactic violet ray alchemy from Alexandra, who shares in the lineage of Merlin, and other cutting-edge healing technologies. Check our site out at galacticconnection.com now, sending you a wave of light, love, and inspiration, and a personal hug and thank you for listening to our Galactic Connection radio show and visiting our blog today.
Now we have one of our oldest and dearest friends, and who had maybe the greatest impact on my life many years ago when I started out as an author. We have Alexandra Meadors, host of Galactic Connection. She's such an amazing person, one of the greatest influences in my life, and very instrumental in bringing Lana and I together. And
Alexandra Meadors is a spiritual leader, a master alchemist, a powerful intuitive who hosts Galactic Connection, and she has an amazing radio show. She's a blogger. She's influenced so many people. We call her the Galactic Queen.
Incredibly well known in the spiritual community.
That's right. And she has a divine mission of her own to open portals and help with the ascension of humanity. Alexandra, thank you so much for joining us.
Hey guys, how you doing?
We're doing great. We're still going. We're having a great time here. We've had our presenters are just so varied and so different and so amazing in their own ways, and in which they speak and how they talk about the paradigm shift. And and I know we know you very well. I've known you for many years. I'm again blessed to know all of our presenters, but particularly you have been, like I said, just
so sweet.
I mean, you've changed my life completely many years ago. You were at the very beginning of you came in at the very beginning of my spiritual awakening, and
well, I'm honored to be part of that process. That's what we're all about here. Definitely.
And you've been supportive with Lana and I and me ever since then. For many years now, you've collaborated with us on projects, and you've just been very gracious in adding your wisdom and your magic to everything we do. Even when you're not around, your presence is still felt, and you've touched many lives. So just thank you for that, and thank you for being with us.
And I know that, Alexandra, one of your focuses is to help people step out of the 3D matrix. And so what I'd like to ask you is, what do you understand by the paradigm shift? How can people go with the shift? How can they find their role? How can they move out of the matrix?
I put a lot of time into thinking about this because this is a timely event. Perpetual goosebumps right now. Just room just completely filled with creator right now. And it's a time for people to step back and recognize that this is not, we're getting close to the end because all the articles say so. It's not about we're getting close to the end because somebody channeled it. The bottom line is we need to make a decision. Are we really on board that we are at the end game? And one of the biggest realizations, I just came back from almost 2 months in a spiritual mission in Scotland and Ireland. It absolutely transformed my life. It was probably the most brutal mission and also the most fulfilling mission in my entire life. And one of the realizations that just continues to ride home every day of my life is, what are you choosing to do? And it is as simple as that. And when you work extensively with Creator, there are no magical answers. It's all simplicity and common sense. It is not you have to have a relic or you have to have a special gift. All you have to do is ask and be in a pure heart and do your work. And if you haven't been doing your work and you're like waiting around for everybody to do it for you, this is the time to get off your butt and really crank it up, because we are at the end game here. And people know me, I get a little passionate when I start talking about this stuff, but they know I put the hours in, not only with planetary work, not only with galactic connection work, but I'm busting my hump for my own personal ascending process. And as you know, all of this started in a point of origin that very few people really know about. There's a lot of things that have been written about it. Not too many, but there's some that have alluded to it. And I can say that there was a period and an anomaly that occurred that created a literal backwards vacuum, which drew in beings of light from all different worlds and drew them in to a denser vibrational space. I'm using space with parentheses. And in so doing, it was the very first instantaneous moment that we were faced with contamination, a feeling of imprisonment. And it was in that instantaneous moment that we were quantum entangled with darkness. And we didn't know what that was. We didn't really understand it. We didn't know what it felt like. It wasn't even in our equation. And we were suddenly thrown into a reality that didn't not only make sense, but was horrifically painful. I found it interesting because I came in about 10 minutes before, and I had no idea what the gentleman was going to be speaking about before. And we're on the same page when it comes to the fact that knowledge is power, from the standpoint of really understanding that we are, let's just put it this way, we have been victimized by what ended up being a hunter's game. And that is literally what we've been in. We have been either a hunter or we've been hunted. There is no in between. And as we've gone through this process, what has caused us to be where we are now today is we have developed survival skills, mechanisms, ways of interacting with people, with ourselves, with our loved ones, with our pain, tremendous pain from the fall. So over the top pain that many don't really recognize that the pain has been contained and held by Creator itself. Now, a lot of people know I refer to it as a him because that's my comfort zone, and that's how he shows up to me every minute of the day when I'm working with him. But the fact of the matter is, a great deal of pain and suffering was inflicted upon Creator itself as well from this anomaly, this anomalous event that occurred. And because of that, we have found ourselves in a predicament. Why you're doing these, these interviews today is we found ourselves in a predicament of, how do I get out of where I am? Why do I feel so stuck? Why am I so exhausted? Why do I have no hope left? Why have I bought into things that I probably shouldn't have bought into? Where's my sense of discernment? These are all questions I get from all over the world. And I see common patterns. I see commonalities in the hearts and minds of every single race on this planet. And I should say outside this planet, because there's a whole bunch of different species walking on this planet right now that are assisting us big time. So there is a level of what we call resistance that we have honed in and perfected to such a degree that now we're at a place where it's really not serving us. Okay, and there was a period of time where we had a choice. The old philosophies were divide and conquer, fight or flight, survival of the fittest. And those philosophies are so outdated because we assumed at that time, because we felt literally cut off from our divine connection. We felt that we had no way of surviving but to fight back or to flee. So you have kind of two types of people walking the planet. Or we will intermix with those philosophies from time to time, depending on how intense of an emotional experience we go through. So we have the kind of the badasses out there, the warriors that are like fearless. They're going to go right through the fire. They're going to just take it head on. And, in many cases, for all you Knights Templars out there, you're going to die. You're going to go down dying for the cause. Okay. But this is an old paradigm. Then you've got the others that have learned in the way that they survive is they flee. They get out of Dodge as fast as they can. They perfect their skills of spying, of collecting intel, and of keeping themselves hidden. So there's two totally different ways in which we've kind of dealt with being hijacked and contaminated from that fall from grace. And there was unfathomable despair, unfathomable destruction, something that this had never happened like this before. This was, it was an anomaly that was, on the one hand, it was an anomaly. On the other hand, guess what? Everyone out there, we each individually agreed to participate in this game. And I feel like that's one of the most important messages because it takes the victim out of the equation. It takes the brutality that you might feel from the surroundings out of the equation because you made the choice. Why? The number one reason we did this is because we knew we had to stop some sort of virus that had been pervading everything that we know to be life itself. Anything with the consciousness was getting affected. It had become a very I'm going to say, emergency situation. And what ended up developing was this fall, which actually was caused by the shattered looking glass, by the way. And so with that, we learned to strike back, to combat, to thwart, to push back, to resist, to be resilient. The gentleman before you said, whoa, resilience, it's key. It is key. But now things can be and are very easy. If you just step back and stop for 1 minute and look at how radical things have changed on the planet, you will actually start noticing some amazing changes. The key here is, are you willing to let go of the patterns, the habits, and the thought that you can do it all yourself? One of the things that I have learned over and over again is I didn't ask enough. There was a part of us, there's an element within the human race where we either feel like we're going to be a pain in the butt if we ask too much, or we're weak if we ask too much, or we should know better, and so we don't ask too much. But what I've been told is, no matter what it is, you ask Creator and you will receive the assistance that you need. There is no such thing as too much for Creator, because Creator loves us beyond measure, beyond our comprehension. I mean, I can't even tell you. And when you get into a place, at least where I'm at, and you actually ask, and it literally is delivered in the physical over and over and over and over again, you really get it. Like, wow, okay, it's this simple. So I'm thinking to myself, when you guys put this together, and as you know, I just got back, a couple weeks ago. I thought, what is the most important thing to share in this, short snippet of time? And I have a couple of core things I'd like to go over, but it's really important for people, just that paradigm shift right there, that it's not about doing it all alone. It's not even being independent. It's not even about necessarily unifying. It's about recognizing that you're not in a hunter game any longer where you had to do it alone or you thought you did. It's not about survival anymore. And if you're feeling like you're in a place of survival, you got to step off the Ferris wheel. It's the only way to stop whatever's not working in your life is to literally make a choice. That's a very, very, very first thing. It's that simple, David and Lana, to start there. I know you asked a question. I'm not, I have so much I could say. I don't know if I should just keep going if you want to ask me questions or whatever, but it's key to simplify things. It's really key. And I want to really stress that we have developed unbelievable skill sets. Are they necessary once we go to the other side? No. But we're still standing here today having this conversation after we've been, tortured and quartered and beheaded and disemboweled, burned at the stake, boiled in hot oil, hit by lasers and microwaves. I know there's a lot of you out there that have experienced that. So have I. Not fun. Okay. But we're still here, standing here today. You've got to step back and go, they are not the victors. we are. We are standing at the gate. And so, you know, I have a couple of notes here, because if anybody has talked about the word empower, you know, just the word itself is talking about authorization. Who are you authorizing to work through your life, to help you make decisions, to cause you to feel certain ways? Are you authorizing yourself? And if you are authorizing yourself, are you making decisions that you're really proud of? So there isn't this judgment that we think we're going to have, like, you know, you're going to be put in the corner and your nose is going to be, you know, how you, in the old days, you would have the circle drawn on the chalkboard and they would put your nose in the circle to humiliate you. Happened to me, guys. Anyway, but, you know, it's not about that. It's about you seeing whatever characteristics that you feel are a weakness, or I'm going to say a flaw, or a skill set that you developed strictly for survival. You look at it just that way. Not beating yourself up, not putting yourself down. It should just be like answering the phone. It's just part of life. That's where we're standing right now. And we truly are in the final hours here. I can't stress that enough, that if you feel like there's parts of you, and I can tell you right now, we all have that going, okay? There isn't a person on the planet, I don't care how enlightened they are, that doesn't still have some sort of clearing and work to do. Got that from upstairs, okay? So we tend to kind of go, oh, I'm going to put that person on a pedestal. Oh, that person's so much better than me because they can do this. It's totally like a open, clean slate with Creator. Nobody's better than anybody else, you know? And it's all in the way we look at it. It's so important to see that. So, you know, because of quantum entanglement, it's really caused so many wounds to be amplified and magnified, and it's caused us to not be who we really are. I mean, we hear that all the time, but you know, what does it really mean? You know, we vacillated from victimhood to being victorious in one battle after another. But in each episode, and boy, have we been doing this a long time, especially those that were here from the very beginning, like myself. We have done millenniums of loops. And in these loops, here's an FYI. If there's something that you've noticed that's happening in your life over and over and over, the only thing that's maybe changing is the people, but the same pattern still exists, then there's a really good chance that happened right at the time of the fall or shortly thereafter. And that's how long you've been carrying it, folks. And it's time to let go of it. There's some very basic things. I thought what I could do today is just give you some basic tips, you know, at this final hour of what you want to do to repair, you know, your broken heart, your shattered essence, because we all got that going on. And, you know, feeling maybe less exhausted. But it's time for us to take ownership in what we caused. And this should not be looked upon as something that is terrible, embarrassing, humiliating. You know, that's exactly what we do, right? I mean, we automatically look at, oh God, you know, this is what's wrong with me. Oh, you know, I'm like this. Yeah, because I did this. Well, guess what? I mean, there isn't a person on this planet that hasn't done something. We all need to clean our closets out, and this is such an important time. Now, here's a really important piece. Whatever you do not clean up and clear and free and remove now, there will be a lot more amplification on the other side, because the energies are so finely tuned, and we will feel them even worse than we do now. So I don't know anybody out there that doesn't want to like try to clean up that stuff before they go. And here, you know, it's really, really, really important of how we participate in the game. This game is coming to an end. That's why we call it the end game.
Yes, that's right, the end game.
You know?
I've heard that.
It's coming to an end, and each one of us has played a role. You know, we've all played roles throughout the whole thing, and we've developed certain characteristics that really aren't so good because of what's happened to us. And again, we have to go back to number one, we were hunted, but we're not victims. Because believe it or not, our oversoul, our higher self, made the choice to go through this. Now, I will definitely state that we were not supposed to go on this long. Okay, the game was not supposed to be played out this much, and it was not supposed to keep going on and on and on, and it wasn't supposed to be this brutal. Okay, there were a lot of things that were slid under the table, so to speak, that we weren't aware of. But guess what? We made it. That's it's just like amazing to me. We faced at that millisecond, I think it was a 1/10 of a second. And in that 1/10 of a second, we went from knowing only love to going into a completely impure, contaminated space. Now think about that. And give yourself a break. If you're beating yourself up because you're not this, you're not that, you're not the other. Oh, I'm not clairvoyant, or oh, I'm not, you know, successful, or I nobody loves me. Oh, my husband left me, or you know, whatever. My son is disappointing me. Just let it all go. You've got to make the choice. I keep saying that over and over again, making the choice. What does making a choice mean? You wake up one day and you make a choice. You are committed to wanting to change. You don't just say it because you think that's the right thing to do. You got to want it with every core of your being. So we obviously want to focus on moving into a sovereign construct, right? We all want to be sovereign. We all want to be free to make decisions where we don't feel like we're being impeded. We don't feel like when we do something that someone's trying to thwart our success. We don't want that. So every time, and this is really key, every time that we've been in a time loop, it's really much like Groundhog's Day. And you know that old saying, David, where they say, you know, how do you define insanity, doing the same thing and expecting a different result?
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of what we've been doing. Okay? We've been doing that.
I've come to recognize this time loop that you've been talking about. I just realized this matrix time loop and wrote an article about it, actually. But
perfect.
I don't want to interrupt your flow. But
no, perfect. And you know, because we've been in a hunter game, remember that you yourself chose a role and a way in which to react to being hunted. Or you were the hunter, okay? And you chose a role of how you were going to react in hunting others. I know it sounds crazy, but that's really what it gets down to. And if you can step back and just kind of look at yourself through that lens, write down all the things that you really want to release and let go of. Maybe you're too emotional, or maybe you feel unstable, or maybe you feel overwhelmed, or maybe you get too bitchy when you're under too much stress. Whatever it is, we all got these things going, so there's no humiliation necessary. But it's time to do house cleaning. Take a piece of paper, write down all the things that you feel are blocking you and that are repetitively showing up in your life, like as if it is Groundhog's Day. So we're doing this infinity loop over and over and over and over and over. Okay, it's great to step off of it. And when I see all the emails that have come in, and how many people are feeling beaten down and, oh God, how can I get unstuck? It's because they're in a time loop. It's as simple as that. So I want to review, David, some of the core tendencies, okay, of those that have been hunted. And they should resonate with a lot of you out there. And feel free to write them down on a piece of paper, because there's a really high likelihood that many of you can relate to them. So the first one is thinking that we have to ask for permission to be free. Okay, this is just like, oh, she's wearing a leopard thing. He didn't hear me.
Welcome back. she likes your leopard shirt. So
love it. So the first thing that we think we have to ask for is permission to be free. I don't know very many people that haven't had that issue, right? I mean, we can talk all day long about the cabal and the Khazarian mafia and, the Vatican and the religion and all that other stuff. But the bottom line is, we're at an hour where if we start making different choices, things will start hopping in your life. So that's the first thing. The second thing is relinquishing the ability to ask for help from Creator. Okay? Like a lot of us have done that. I know just in the people that I've worked with and myself personally, if you get really stressed out, what's the first thing you usually do? So ask yourself that. I'm now in a place where the first thing that I do now is I go straight to Creator. And it's really a good feeling. And my life is just so smooth. The next one is relinquishing your own self-control. Now this is a biggie, because we use control as a survival network. And it was a modus operandi to feel safe and secure. Okay. But at this hour, it's like doing the opposite. Because if you're like in self-control, guess what's happening? You're thwarting all these really cool divine plans that you've made for yourself at this hour to unfold, because you're doing it through this lower dimensional reality, and it's not going to serve you. The next one is just throwing in the towel, giving up, not having the fortitude to face what you consider to be, you're just done. That's it. You can't take it anymore. That's it. Now, a lot of people have talked to me about that. And what I say to you is, we've all hit that. What are you going to do when you get up the next morning? You're going to put your pants on and face your issues? Or are you going to stay in that muck, thinking that you don't have what it takes? Because if you carry a divine spark of Creator, you've got exactly what it takes, period. And the next one is playing the cornered cat, okay? Meaning you feel really cornered, you feel really like, almost paranoid. You're going to come out swinging, right? You're going to swing because you're so afraid that someone's going to hurt you. The next one is playing the game. Okay, now we've heard about this game thing, but the reality is, at what point have you made the decision to stop participating in that game? Now, it's not just enough to, you know, stop paying taxes or get rid of your social security number or drop out of a corporate job. I mean, these are all the kinds of things people do when they want to drop out of the game. Okay? But I'm talking the game for you in your life. What role did you play? How have you been coping? And are you still carrying that role? Okay? Because guess what? All these roles, all these prior lifetimes, if you get like really tied in with a past life, if you get really tied in with an identity, it's going to be gone. Bam! In the blink of a millisecond once you're on the other side. Remember that. It was just a role for you to play to get through the hunter games.
So true.
Okay. The next one is developing issues of being perceived as weak. Like, I have people that they beat themselves up because they cry at the drop of the hat and they think that that makes them weak. I have people that, you know, are overly sensitive and somebody will say something to them that really rubs them the wrong way and they've gotten to the point where they just ostracize themselves and they don't even participate in the world. Now, each and every one of these things is a response to how we felt when we were tortured and hunted. And they no longer apply if you make the choice. I'm going to say that one more time. They no longer apply if you make the choice. And the next one is driving ourselves so hard that we ignore our human bodies and our human needs. I can attest to that one. Okay? I can attest to all of these, basically. You know, we drive ourselves so hard, we're so passionate about certain things that we completely forget that we're in this physical shell. Okay? Because the divine side of you can just do it all. And then intimidating others, not necessarily meaning to hurt them, but to actually just keep yourself safe. Maybe have boundaries put around you. That way nobody will hurt you again. Okay? I know a lot of people's safety and security is just like the hugest friggin' thing on the planet. I know it has been for me. We've trusted people that we never should have trusted before because we didn't have the discernment. Another one is not feeling stable. You feel really just, there's an instability in what do you hang on to? Let's say, like, I run into this a lot. People will write in, I just lost my house, my wife, my job. I have nothing to hang on to. Wrong. Now, when that happens, I just want you to know, there's a lot of you out there that are going through this right now. I think David can attest to this. There's a lot of people where the shit's hitting the fan in their lives. And this is directly correlated to the fact that you're finally getting on your own path. You're not on a matrix path. And it might, you know, it might be kind of painful and uncomfortable and everything else, but if you ask Creator to assist you in hanging on and dealing with the emotions that come up every single time, man, you just feel like wailing. You're at some meeting and you just feel like wailing because some horrible things have happened to you. You just go to the bathroom and ask. The next one is becoming so enraged that you're afraid of what you'll do. Anybody can relate to that one? The other one is expecting hostility from others. Gee, imagine that. We've been in a hunter game and we expect hostility from others. Okay? Another one is hibernating and isolating ourselves when things get rough. And this is, you know, I think we're all doing this because it's just made it so much easier. However, it's not, you know, unification is really right now, it's about the individual unifying all their aspects and their lineage and all their emotions and thoughts and everything else. It's about unifying from within. Feeling that we have to prove ourselves to Creator and others, that we can do it on our own and not ask for help. That's a really big one. I see that a lot. Then feeling guilty because we don't extend forgiveness to ourselves. Have you guys ever thought about that? We go into guilt, and a lot of times we forgot that maybe it's because we feel guilty we didn't give ourselves forgiveness. Because guess what? The forgiveness starts with yourself. And that's because you were in a hunter game where you were actually doing things and participating in things that were so against your divine construct. I cannot begin to stress this enough. If you really get that, it should help you kind of deal with what's going on in this reality and how you're reacting to it at this final hour. And then forgiving all participants in the game. And that's a biggie. That's where we're at right now, is forgiving all participants that have been responsible to have blood on their hands, suffering, destruction, torment. And if you can, just say, I send love, forgiveness, and gratitude to X. Do it every day. Just do it. So, you know, I also wanted to point out, you know, Darwin, he's the guy that, you know, has been so well coined as stating about survival of the fittest, which is so amazingly appropriate to being in the hunter's game. And his actual statement is, quote, a natural selection of the preservation of favored races in the struggle of life, unquote. Now, I read that, I about fell off my chair because that had a lot of subliminal messages, meaning the natural selection of the preservation of favored races in the struggle of life. Well, fittest in what kind of environment, right, Lana? I mean, it's like, who wants to be participating in this environment anyway? You know, in this, you know, where there's death and destruction and war and bloodshed and, you know, poverty and stealing and lying and, you know, I mean, it's across the board, you know. And then who wants to be suited for an environment based on conquer and defeat, okay, and destruction? Who wants to be part of that? So who wants to even be the favored race that's, you know, who wants to be the favored race in the struggle for life? But that really is true, is that we were really struggling to either, you know, survive in the game or not. So my question to you is, at what point do you say, I just want to drop out of the game? I'm ready to resign. I don't want to play in this game anymore. And when you make that decision, I'm telling you right now, it's like the biggest day of your life. And it will affect a lot in your life. It will pare down a lot of things in your life. It will pare down jobs and friends and family members and all sorts of things. You're going to have to really deal, because you're going to start finding who you really are when you make that decision. It's so crucial. And also, it's like a time for all of us to really learn how to completely surrender. We talk about surrendering, we talk about praying, we talk about mantras and meditations and all sorts of things. But it's so much simpler than that. And that is, you just ask. You ask for assistance. And I have specific statements on the website. If you go to galacticconnection.com and you click on the Prime Creator Messages, it's right on the front screen. I advise you highly, if you've not read any of those or listened to those videos, to do so. They're extremely important to see what has been recommended by Creator. I also want to state, and I was asked to do this, there are Creator messages floating around. Please pay attention to how they're written and what it feels like they came from. Okay, because it's a cabal game. Just a little FYI there. So, not participating. That's the number one first thing. I choose not to participate in the game. I would write it, I would state it, and I would proclaim it to Creator. I no longer am going to participate in the game. The second thing is to recognize that every time someone or something bothers you, step back instead of reacting, because that's part of the game. Okay? That's totally part of the game. If somebody triggers you, hurts you, irritates you, stop, breathe, and say, this is part of the game. There's a program running in me. I want to get rid of that program. And you ask Creator, I want to stop this program where I get triggered when someone does this. It's as simple as that.
That's right.
Okay, the third one is, and I want to say one thing. I've shared the statement. It is so flippin' powerful. Okay? If you do this a couple times a day, you will be receiving all the massive work that is being done for all of you without you lifting a finger. So why not take it? It's from Creator. And you say, I accept and I receive all the planetary healing work that has been done for me, all the aspects of my being, my lineage. It is done. Thank you. Okay, now a lot of people have had instantaneous changes just by doing this. I feel it every time I do it. And it's kind of like there's like stuff sitting on the top of your head. It's like a big gift with a big bow on it. And it's right above your head until you consciously make the choice. This is the key, consciously making the choice. So the third thing to do is to establish a relationship straight to the top. This is really important. I can totally relate to all of you people out there that have had extremely close relationships with archangels and ascended masters and, whoever. But we are in a game, and they've all been, guess what? They've all been distorted just like we have. There is not a being in this matrix that is not distorted. And you can ask them head on. You can ask them face to face, whoever it is you work with, and they will tell you the truth. It's really important. So it's easier for you to go straight to the top where there's actual purity. 100% purity to help you remove all the programs. And it's just going to be quicker, faster, easier, and, just have the commitment and have a pure heart. I think everybody that's listening to this can do this, right? It's simple. The fourth thing is having the awareness to know that Groundhog Day is here now. It's not in a week from now. It's not, oh yeah, they've been saying that for years. Yeah, everybody's been saying it's right around the corner. Creator never quotes dates and never will. David, Lana, do you know why?
I do know that I came out of a parallel life. I saw that parallel life, and I saw myself go through the apocalypse, and I saw everyone die in the apocalypse, and I'm still here. So I know there's a matrix time loop going on.
Okay, but do you know why Creator would not put out dates?
Because the Creator doesn't go by clocks and calendars. It's a human-made concept, for one thing.
That's number one. What's number two?
Time doesn't exist, and we live in an unlimited future possible outcomes, future outcomes. We're making that choice. We're creating the future outcomes now in this very moment. So it hasn't been determined. Although all of the infinite possible future outcomes are there, and we're pulling them in as probabilities based on
I guess it's because we have freedom of choice.
Okay, so Lana is going where I'm going, and you're right. I mean, I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying that the number one reason why dates are never put out, if you see a date, you know it's CIA or cabal.
Oh,
okay?
That's another.
Whoever that falls under that category. A date is something that each of us who think, right? We all think. And what does thinking create? Thoughts, right? And what do thoughts do? Thoughts are actual little, they're actual real deal things. We've already...
Conscious beings.
Right, okay. And what's going to happen if he goes, oh, hey, we're all graduating tomorrow at 3 p.m. What does our thought system pattern do? Does it assist that when we're all distorted in this reality? We're in a distorted reality, therefore, we carry bodies that are distorted. So just remember that it's more about our thoughts will derail any plans. So it's never going to be shared. So back to Groundhog Day, the main thing is this is now the time to immediately make a different choice. Now, I've been learning this, like I really thought that I got that, okay? And the other day, I was doing some work, some planetary work, and it was kind of hard. And I was like, God, what's this all about? And I realized I was breaking a pattern and a looping pattern that I had been in since the moment I fell. And I tell you what, as soon as I made a different choice, I couldn't believe the feeling of freedom. It was unbelievable. It was awesome. So keep that in mind. And it is a time for all of us to really ask for fortitude. If you're really, I'm not feeling that, but I mean, there's a lot of people that have just really had it really rough lately. And there's people that are checking out, right? You got a lot of people checking out that are fulfilling their exit plans. This is all deliberate. It's time for us to have the fortitude to really face and endure the pain and struggle that we have, because the difference is when you make these different changes and choices, you really are going to start feeling and seeing shifts in your life. And I mean instantaneously. It's not like the old days, folks. It's just not. You got so much support. And I would say lastly, it's a time to decide which world you want to stand in. Now, I see this a lot, and I know this to be true, that the worlds have truly split. And the dense world has been separated from the light world. And you really need to ask yourself, are you playing in both sandboxes? This is not a time. See, a lot of people in the spiritual community feel that they have to be the bridge. And that concept is really outdated, by the way. Okay? Everybody is perfectly capable of, they came here with a plan. I mean, I don't care if you're 2 years old or you're 85. every one of us has a plan. Every one of us has guidance. Every one of us even has a welcoming committee that's waiting for us. Okay? Everybody has help. And we don't need to be a bridge. I want to say this, and I've been told this directly from Creator, and that is, if you continue to hang on to loved ones that are not at your awareness level, or they're not, let's just say, evolved where you are, and you continue to hang on to, oh my God, what's going to happen to them? Oh my God, I got to make sure they make it. I got to make sure they're going to ascend. Okay. What do you think you're doing there? I mean, number one, you're discounting their higher self. And, you know, I mean, just because you've got a toddler that's 2 does not mean that this toddler has not been an extremely ancient old soul. They know what they're doing, folks. So it's important that each and every one of us is responsible for us, just ourselves. I mean, I'm serious. Even your children, they have been completely taken care of. They have, there's, you know, even the very, very young children, there's, you know, kind of special agreements that have been set up. And many of them came in at this time to raise the vibration so we could get this job done. So they're not even like going to struggle like some of us could or maybe will. Okay. So you don't need to worry about them, and you really need to focus on yourself. Focusing on everybody around you is a distraction, and it keeps you from really doing your own homework. So that's another thing I was asked to talk about. And the more you do now, it's a lot easier for you on the other side. I'm just going to really stress that. So, you know, think about what it feels like instead of being disempowered and hopeless and miserable and feeling stuck and in a time loop. What is it going to feel like to be balanced and solid, right? And you know, infinite and growing and assured. These are all the cool things that come from it. So I hope that helps. And I was basically, I mean, it's pretty funny. Right before I left for my final mission, I basically said, what can I do? What can I do? Because I'm an alchemist, blah, blah, you know, everybody knows that. And so I made some of the most powerful oils and essences I think I've ever made. I took them through my entire trip, and they really assisted me in a lot of the clearing work I was doing, the healing work, the planetary work, as well as my own individual personal work. I have 2 different key tools. Okay, these are definitely tools. And the first one is a kit. I hope you guys can see that. And it's 8 alchemical essences for quantum entanglement. They're really helpful, and they're simple to take. They're easy to use. You know, the first one is accessing your own personal power, like really getting our own authority. You know, the next one is loving yourself fully. The next one is recognizing the power within. The next one is finding your truth foundation. And then you have redefining security and safety. It's a very good one. You have being open to change. And the next one is being open to receive. As hunted, we didn't know what that felt like. Seriously. And the 8th one is letting go of programming. And it's really important because even if you've done a lot of clearing and everything like I have, our bodies are riddled in programming. Let me tell you. I mean, we're talking some ancient stuff. So this kit right here is 144. For those of you out there that are really into alchemy, you're familiar with Bach flowers, and those are like really highly concentrated. This is the same. I went that way. And then I have my special Egyptian alchemical oils, and these puppies really rock. Man, I mean, they all do. They all do. And I really highly advise. People write me all the time and say, well, what's the difference between an oil and an essence? And really, they're both breaking different boundaries and barriers in the body. With essences, you typically take them under the tongue, but I have people put them directly onto parts of their body and it will heal stuff. So it just depends. Now, the oils are like super powerful. I have dropped the price on those intentionally because of the time that is at hand. I want to help people as much as I possibly can, give them some tools that are easy for them to help them break through their patterning and their programming. So the oils, the first one is deprogramming the body. Second is assimilation of codes. The third one is boosting your energy. Boy, do I need that. And remind me to come back in that in a second. Fourth one is disconnecting from world pain. This is at an all-time high, guys. We are seeing so much truth, okay, that we wanted it. We called it out. We were like, I want this out. I want to get everything exposed. I want these guys on the carpet. But the point is, like, our internal part of us is really hurting. There's a lot of pain. We're associating ourselves with the pain. The fifth one is relaxing sleep. That is a huge issue. Everybody has very erratic sleep patterns, or they sleep like, they can't even get out of bed. The sixth one is removing stress. And this is because we're getting inundated with so many codes, frequencies, information. Did you know that when you go to sleep, you're going up on the ship and you're also being trained? Okay, you're doing this stuff around the clock, everybody. I mean, in the last 4 years, nonstop, you've been doing this. 7 is focusing on your homecoming. Great oil when you're feeling kind of beaten down and you just really want to focus on the end game. 8, peace and tranquility. I use that a ton. 9, grounding and focus. I want to come back to that in a minute. And 10, harmonizer. And I dropped the price on these from $66 to $44.
And I'm happy to say that over the last 3 years or longer, I've used your essences off and on, different types. Lana has as well, I believe. And in fact, this is an funny thing, I think. I'll just say it real quick because we're sort of running out of time. But okay. Before I met Lana, which you were instrumental in bringing us together in a certain way, spiritually, most men, give their how do I say this, prospective partner, flowers or something. I got Lana an alien implant removal process.
Very romantic.
So,
not every day a gal receives that.
I'm just giving my personal.
That's funny.
Yeah, both of us. So I'm just giving my personal testimony.
That's like the ultimate present.
Yeah.
It really is.
And here we are. We're still standing and still together in divine union.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Shifts and all.
Well, and that's great. I'm thank you again for just, you've used my stuff so it works. I mean, it works if you participate with it because it has a consciousness. It's going to talk to you. It's going to work with you. It's going to help you dump stuff. But I do want everyone to know, if you're dog tired, if you're just feeling really exhausted, and you just can't seem to get over that hump, don't feel alone, because it depends on what percentage of your body you're here in the here and now here. There's so many of us working on the other side, okay? Because we're really getting down to the nitty gritty here. Mm-hmm. And the other thing about grounding, I just want to really stress, when you ground to your feet, not the earth. Ground to underneath your feet, to your own shell, okay? It's another key thing.
Encourage all of our listeners to go to your website. You've got one of the most well-known websites, galacticconnection.com, on the internet in the spiritual community through your own personal efforts. I congratulate you on that. I mean, and it's a very exciting website is what I'm trying to say. That's why everyone should visit it.
Full to the brim.
I mean, you know,
absolutely.
You've got everything going on, and it's just spectacular. It's so informative that it's truly impressive.
And thank you, Alexandra, for coming on our show.
Thank you so
You've
much.
given us some very good, wonderful, practical tools.
You do. You always come in very balanced, and we've had some very just. Everybody's got the same basic message, right from Bruce Lipton, who put it in a more. He's very light in his, but you know, where we're facing the fifth mass extinction of the planet, he's saying what he's very sort of, I don't, you know, and then the gentleman before you, who's quite well known, author Andrew Harvey, is much more passionate. And I'm emotionally exhausted from this conference. I had no idea what to expect.
Well, you should ask for help from up above.
That's right.
This has been a,
And that message does, that message does come through. And you've given us some other really good practical tips.
Yes.
So
drop out of the game of life.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm going to say that
Thank
right
you for
off.
that.
That was. Oh.
I no longer want to participate.
We're dropping out.
Yes.
Hunter's game.
There's so many things you touched upon that I wish I had time to reflect on with you, but the game of life, don't play the game of life anymore. And I can relate to everything you're saying. You know me very well, and you know, we've told these stories before in interviews, and we'll probably tell them again if we have time in the future. So for now, I appreciate everything you had to say.
I want to thank you because I know it's a lot of work to put these things together. I totally relate. And you guys are adorable. I mean, I'm so glad to see that you guys are there. And can you do me a favor and send me the link for the recording?
Absolutely.
And also, I just want to say one last thing to everyone. How far over did I go? I tried to make it an hour.
We have a little bit of an allowance for the for the you know.
Sorry.
Thank you.
I just want to tell everybody, I cannot express enough how loved you are. It is unbelievable what has been done to help extract us out of this game. So meet Creator part way for your own sake and his, and get your work going. Get it done. Get her done.
Beautiful message, Alexandra.
Thank you so much,
you.
Alexandra. So much appreciation for you being here with us and always being with us and being here for everyone in the spirit in the world. And
especially for giving that message of love. Thank you, Alexandra.
Thank you. You guys take care. I'll just go. See ya.
Yep.
All right.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.